Perfect. Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on, man? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. This is the show. We cover the SWAC inside and out. And today is our Week 11 recap. We had a Friday and Saturday games because we got a game on Sunday, which is today that I'm recording this. So we got Texas Southern Alcorn facing off this afternoon. So we're gonna recap that game tomorrow. Have that probably up tomorrow. And Tuesday is our HBCU point spread show. Wednesday, Week 12 preview. Thursday, SWAC Smoke live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday, Week 12 recap. Season is coming to a close. The West Division um can what the West Division still won't be officially wrapped up after today, but that sets the stage for next week's game to kind of seal the deal for one of two teams. So really intriguing action this week, intriguing action next week. But before all of that, man, y'all hit those socials: Facebook is Swag Talk, Instagram Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, man. I thank everybody for subscribing. I thank everybody for watching and responding to the video I put up last night, man. That's straight from the heart. I don't like to make those kind of videos, but times call for it. So definitely check it out if you haven't. Um, and then check out any other content that I have up if you haven't checked it out already. So if you haven't subscribed already, man, please hit that subscribe button. Like the video, share it, and hit that super thanks, man. If you hit that super thanks, hit that Cash App $ Swag Talk, or you can hit the join button and become a member. So multiple ways to support the show if you would like. Let's go ahead and jump into this, man. We're gonna go ahead and get this up and going. We had a game on Friday. Grambling and Pine Bluff Tigers win 43-14. In a game that Pine Bluff actually started this game off with a big play early. They got an early touchdown run from 50 yards out to kind of get them going. But Grambling defensively kind of stifled the Golden Lions most of the game, and Grambling's offense kind of got off to a slow start in terms of scoring the ball, but they hit a lot of big plays early in that game, and it turned into the typical game that Pine Bluff plays where the defense can't get any stops and the offense can't really do a lot with the ball, and they ultimately lose by double digits, which has been the case for all 7 of their conference games. They've lost, well, 6 of their 7 conference games they've lost by double digits. So they've really had a rough time of it. Johnny Williams got the Golden Lions on the board first with a 50-yard touchdown run. That came with 11:56 left in the first quarter after the extra point. Golden Lions led 7-0. Javon Robinson caught a 50-yard pass from Miles Crawley. Nice catch and run. 6 minutes and 58 seconds left in the first quarter. Extra point, good. Tied the game up at 7. Antonio Jones would catch a 16-yard pass from Miles Crawley with 11:01 left in the second quarter. 2-point conversion was no good. 13-7 would be our half. 13-7 would be the score at that point. 10-13 left in the second quarter. Grambling will get a safety, make the score 15-7, and that would be our halftime score. Floyd Chalk will get the Tigers back on the board with 9:32 left in the third quarter with a 31-yard touchdown run, extra point good, 22-7. Lyndon Rash would get a touchdown pass from Miles Crawley from 5 yards out with 7:59 left in the third, extra point good, 29-7. With 3:15 left in the third, Maurice Lloyd will catch an 18-yard pass from Chance Edwards, extra point good, 29-14. Miles Crawley would get a 21-yard touchdown run with 6:07 left in the game. Extra point good. Tigers lead 36-14. And then Dedrick Talbert will run a 2-yard touchdown, uh, two-yard touchdown run with 58 seconds left in the game. Extra point good. Grambling wins 43-14. Grambling would finish with 21 first downs, Pine Bluff with 13. 213 yards on the ground for Grambling. Really good running effort. Average 7.6 yards per carry with 28 carries, 3 touchdowns. Pine Bluff 123 yards on the ground. Uh, 50 of those came on one play. 38 carries, 3.2 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. 198 yards through the air for Grambling, 18 of 28. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. 143 yards for Pine Bluff through the air. 14 of 29, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. 411 yards for Grambling, 56 plays, 7.3 yards per play. They fumbled once and lost it. 10 penalties for 77 yards. 266 total offense for the Golden Lions. 67 plays, 4 yards per play. They fumbled once, didn't lose it. They had 9 penalties for 86 yards. Grambling averaged 37 yards per punt. The Golden Lions 36.8. Grambling 41 minutes and 47 second time possession, 28-38 for the Golden Lions. 3 of 9 on third down for Grambling, 0 for 1 on fourth down, 1 of 14 for Pine Bluff on third down, 2 of 4 on fourth down, 3 of 3 in the red zone for Grambling, 3 sacks. They were 5 of 5 on extra points, didn't attempt a field goal. Pine Bluff 2 of 2 in the red zone, no sacks, 2 of 2 on extra points, and 0 for 1 on field goals. Individually, Grambling was led by Miles Crawley, 18 of 28, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Chance Edwards was 5 of 12 for Pine Bluff for 78 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked twice. Makai Higgins, 9 of 17 for 65 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked once. Chance Williams led Grambling with 11 carries for 97 yards, averaged 8.8 yards per carry. Floyd Chalk, 6 for 54 and a touchdown. He averaged 9 yards per carry. Miles Crawley had 3 carries for 24 yards, also averaged 8 yards per carry. So a lot of explosive runs for Grambling. The team ran the ball very well in this game. Pine Bluff was led by Johnny Williams with 15 carries for 99 yards and 1 touchdown. He had a longer 50 with a 6.6 average. BJ Curry had 3 for 20 to be the second leading rusher for the Golden Lions. Javon Robinson, 2 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown for Grambling. Tylon Williams, 2 for 28. Lyndon Rash, 3 for 27 and a touchdown. Quiet, 1 for 25. Jones, 1 for 16 and a touchdown. Derek White led Pine Bluff with 1 for 38 in receptions. Maurice Lloyd, 3 for 31 and a touchdown. Kenji Lewis, 3 for 21 on the night. Lewis Matthews, 12 tackles for Grambling. Garner, Zito, my boy Blaze Zito got him a tackle for loss. And Nori Johnson, they each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Zito also had a sack. Garner had a sack as well. Dickerson and Lewis had half sacks apiece. Interception went to Matthews and Donald Lee. Pine Bluff was led by Khalil Arnold with 11 tackles. Rico Dozier with 9 tackles for loss. Arnold and Ujigawu, they each had 1 tackle for loss apiece, no sacks, no forced fumbles, no interceptions. So this game went pretty much the way you would expect it to go. Grambling was able to get right. I call Pine Bluff the get right game, and they were able to get right in this one. Grambling, Pine Bluff just can't seem to make heads or tails of anything right now on either side of the ball. And when you play them, you have opportunity to put up some good numbers, and that's what Grambling did. They came out, took care of business. Kind of had I don't want to call it a slow start, but kind of had a little sluggish of a start, at least in terms of putting the points on the board, because they were able to move the ball, just couldn't finish drives early. But once they got clicking, nothing Pine Bluff did could help them. Moving on to our Saturday's action. We'll start off with the first game of the day, which was Alabama A&M and Bethune-Cookman. Surprising game here, man. There's no other way to really put it. Bethune-Cookman really found a way to take advantage of everything Alabama A&M did. The Wildcats played their best game of the season, which is good for them heading into the Florida Classic. They were able to come out and get a 31-14 victory over the Bulldogs, in which this looked like this was going to be a game that Alabama A&M would basically controlled it, jumped out to a 14-0 lead, 31 unanswered for the Wildcats, and that's a victory for them. And now you have to start to look at where does Alabama A&M go from here? Because this is a game that you feel like, when you look at it, this should have been a certain victory for them, and it wasn't, and it was a bad loss. And this is the third loss in a row, and now the questions really start to come in. Where does this team go? And that's something that'll be talked about throughout the week. But A&M, like I said, they jumped out to a 14-0 lead. They got a 19-yard pass from Cameron Young, from Quincy Casey to Cameron Young with 7:49 left in the first. Extra point good, 7-0. 14:56 left in the second quarter. Xavier Langford ran a 2-yard touchdown run, extra point good. Bulldogs literally 14-0 at that point. They're sitting pretty. This is the second game in a row that they had at least a pretty strong first half, and it got away from them after that. I guess you could say that Magic City Classic was the same way, so maybe 3 games in a row if you want to look at it that way. First halves were pretty solid, second halves were rough. But Bethune-Cookman got on the board with 11:27 left in the first half when Walter Simmons had a 1-yard touchdown run, extra point good. Uh, Wildcats trail 14-7 at the half. 155 left in the third. Cade Hector, 27-yard field goal for Bethune-Cookman. That makes the score 14-10. And then Simmons will run a 47-yard touchdown for the Wildcats with 3:40 left in the game to put them up 24-10. And then with 122 left in the game, Simmons will run a 22-yard touchdown run to make the score 31-14 after the extra point, and that would be our final margin. So Walter Simmons had a huge rushing game against them from the quarterback position. And now you have to look at, like I said, where do the Bulldogs go from here? 18 first downs for Alabama A&M, 25 for Bethune-Cookman, 130 yards on the ground for the Bulldogs, 35 carries, 3.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 412 yards on the ground for Bethune-Cookman. By far, by far the best rushing performance of any team in the conference this season. Even more than that 300 plus yard effort that Texas Southern had against Southern a couple weeks ago. They averaged 7.1 yards per carry and 58 carries, 4 touchdowns. This was a team that was averaging 97 yards per game on the ground coming into this game. And they were able to just gash the Bulldogs for multiple big runs. 173 yards through the air for the Bulldogs, 18 of 33, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. 68 yards through the air for Bethune-Cookman, 9 of 19, no touchdowns, 1 interception. 303 yards for Alabama A&M, 68 plays, 4.5 yards per play, 3 fumbles. They lost 2, so they turned the ball over 4 times. In a game like this, that's a recipe for disaster. 7 penalties for 70 yards. 480 total offense for the Wildcats, 77 plays, 6.2 yards per play. They fumbled 3 times and lost all 3. So this was a pretty sloppy game. There were 4 turnovers for each team, so 8 total turnovers in this game. And Bethune-Cookman still managed to win this game going away. Um, just a really bad effort if you're Alabama A&M. You got to kind of wonder if the team has kind of checked out at the end of the season. Like I said, 2 penalties for 20 yards for Bethune-Cookman. This team hasn't really been highly penalized at all this season. They've had multiple games with low penalty numbers, so they're pretty disciplined in that respect. Um, they seem to be turning the corner. Like I said, they've won their second game in a row, and this is a good look for them heading into the Florida Classic. 42 yard per punt average for the Bulldogs, 39.3 for the Wildcats. Alabama A&M 27 minutes and 12 second time of possession, 32-48 for the Wildcats. 6 of 15 for Alabama A&M on third down, 1 or 2 on fourth down. 8 of 15 for Bethune-Cookman on third down. This is a team that was like in the 20s, I think like in the high 20% range on third down. So really, really great night for them, above 50%. 1 for 1 on fourth down. Each team was 2 or 3 in the red zone. The Bulldogs 1 sack, 3 for the Wildcats, 2 or 2 on extra points for Alabama A&M, 4 or 4 for Bethune-Cookman. Bulldogs did not attempt a field goal. Wildcats were 1 for 1 on field goals. Quincy Casey led Alabama A&M with 17 completions, 31 attempts, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. Langford 1 for 2 for 2 yards. Talik Bethel was 4 of 7 for Bethune-Cookman for 38 yards. No touchdowns, no interception, no sacks. Simmons 5 for 12 for 30 yards. No touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked once. Casey had 9 carries for 57 yards for Alabama A&M. Eaglin 13 for 49. Morrow 8 for 32. Simmons 16 carries, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Average 10.3 yards per carry. Robinson 2 for 137. Shaw 12. I mean, excuse me. Robinson 25 for 137. Shaw 12 for 109. Three people over 100 yards on the ground, man. That is as dominant of a run game as you can get. Um, Tremendous effort on the ground. I love to see teams run the ball, and that was just great. 6 for 68 for Cameron Young, and 1 touchdown for the Bulldogs. Gardner 4 for 44. Gums 4 for 43. Jalen Brown 1 for 17 to lead the Wildcats. Trezado 1 for 16. Boyd 1 for 14. Jordan Mitchell led Alabama A&M with 14 tackles. Caleb Dawson had 10. Dawson 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the defense. Mitchell had the sack, forced fumbles. Dawson had a forced fumble. Pate had 2 recoveries, and Overstreet had 1. Interception went to Billingsley. Bethune-Cookman was led by De'Aris Thomas with 9 tackles. Joshua Thornhill with 8. Eddie Walls had 3 tackles for loss. He continues to be a solid player on that defensive front. Thomas 1.5 tackles for loss. Cunningham, another guy who's pretty solid on the D line, 1.5 tackles for loss. Uh, Thornhill and Doucette had a sack apiece. Half sacks went to Thomas and Cunningham. Uh, Judon had a forced fumble. Uh, Johnson and Lindsey each had fumble recoveries. Interceptions went to Hill Robinson. I think that's his 4th of the year. And Thornhill has 1. Amari Hill Robinson has come on really strong in these last few weeks. He's playing now more like that all conference guy that they predicted him to be. I think he had like 3 interceptions in like his last 3 or 4 games. So really great season for him right now. And big, like I said, just a big win, man. I mean, this was a dominant game for Bethune-Cookman after the first half. They dominated the second half and were able to overcome a 14-0 deficit, win 31-14, and run the ball up and down the field in their home finale. Like I said, they have a big game coming up on Saturday, so they go into the Florida Classic with a little bit of momentum. So you can't overlook that. Regardless of what's going on, this team has started to look a little bit better as the season goes on, and that bodes well for them in the future. Alabama State grinded out a 20-3 victory over Valley. Um, this was a game that Alabama State looked like they were gonna, really pour on the points on this Valley team, and they just after halftime the game just kind of grinded to a halt. Just looking at the second half possessions, Alabama State they turned the ball over on downs. Valley punt, Alabama State punt, Valley punt, Alabama State punt, Alabama State um, turnover on downs, Valley punt, Alabama State punt, Valley punt, Alabama State punt, Valley punt, Alabama State punt, Valley punt, and the end of the game. So nobody did anything in the second half. These were very poor drives in the second half. Like if you just look at these numbers, 8 play drive for Alabama State, 6 play drive for Valley, 3 play drive for the Hornets, 3 play drive for Valley, 3 play drive for Alabama State, 4 play drive for Alabama State, 3 play drive for Valley, 3 for Bama State, 3 for Valley, 5 for Alabama State, 3 for Valley, 3 for Alabama State, 3 for Valley, 2 for Alabama State. Second half, just not good, but Alabama State defensively, they got what they needed early and they locked this thing down. Like I said, 20-3. Anthony Turnage got Valley on the board first with a 34-yard field goal. They led 3-0 with 9:42 left in the first. Marcus Harris, we get the Hornets on the board with 749. The three at that point. Keyshawn Johnson would run a 10-yard touchdown with 3:16 left in the first quarter. Extra point good. 14 to 3 at that point. 6:57 left in the first half. Keyshawn Johnson would catch a 20-yard pass from Damon Stewart to make the score 20 to 3. Extra point no good. And that would be our halftime score, and that would be our final score. Like I said, second half was just a slog for both teams, and it ended up very ugly. 8 first downs apiece for each team. This is the opposite of offensive clinic. These numbers are very very bad on both sides. 102 yards rushing for Bama State, 3.9 yards per carry on 26 carries with 2 touchdowns. 54 yards on the ground for Valley, 33 plays, 1.6 yards per carry, no touchdowns, 119 yards through the air for Bama State, 15 of 22, 1 touchdown, no interception, 76 yards through the air for Valley, 16 of 24, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 221 yards of offense for Alabama State, 48 plays, 4.6 yards per play. They didn't fumble the ball at all. They had 4 penalties for 30 yards. 130 yards for Valley on a total offense, 57 plays, 2.3 yards per play, 2 fumbles. They lost both. They had 4 penalties for 73, so 17 yards. Both teams combined for 351 yards of offense. Um, that's barely enough to have a really solid game for one team, let alone for a combined effort. Um, Bama State's defense is just tremendous. And Valley's defense played a solid game in this one too. So this was a defensive game more than anything. Um, Bama State's defense just continues to do do the Lord's work, so to speak. And they just, they're not getting a lot of help, but they are getting enough, and they're getting victories. 36 yards per punt average for Alabama State, 28 for Valley, 15 combined punts in this game. 27-minute, 25-second time of possession for Alabama State, 32-35 for Valley, 0 for 11 on third down for Alabama State, 2 for 4 on fourth down, 3 of 16 for Valley on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down, 3 of 4 in the red zone for Alabama State. Valley never made it into the red zone. 2 sacks for Bama State, none for Valley, 2 or 3 on extra points for Alabama State. No, obviously Valley didn't score a touchdown, so no extra points for them. Alabama State 0 for 0 on field goals. Valley 1 for 1. Individually, Stewart was 8 of 14 for 102 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Corlett 7 of 8 for 17 yards, no touchdown, no interception, no sacks. Dino Maldonado 4 of 5 for Valley for 38 yards, no touchdown, no interception, no sacks. Tajarian Williams 12 of 19 for 38 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and 2 sacks. Marcus Harris 9 for 59 for Bama State and 1 touchdown. He averaged 6 yards per carry. Jalen Sultan, 7 for 26. Johnson, 3 for 20 and a touchdown. DeFabian Fant led Valley with 10 carries for 34 yards. Jared Wilson, 11 for 18. Jacoby Thomas, 4 for 12. Keyshawn Johnson, 7 catches, 84 yards, 1 touchdown. T. Lee, 5 for 23. All that rhymes. I like that. Jackson Davis, 4 for 27 for Valley. Malik Antoine, 2 for 22. Kobe Bates, 4 for 19. Carrick Ross, 3 for 15. Bubba Adams, 10 tackles for Bama State. DeMarcus Cunningham with 9. Uh, Thomas and Adams each had 2 tackles for loss apiece. Sacks, Lightfoot had 1 sack to lead the defense. Cunningham and Varner each had a half a sack apiece. Uh, Adams and Creech had forced fumbles. Thomas and Saunders had fumble recoveries. And Burgess had an interception for Bama State. Valley was led by Jaron Fox with 12 tackles. Smith and Banks each had a tackle for loss apiece. No sacks, no forced fumbles, and no interceptions. So, like I said, this was not a pretty game at all. But Bama State continues to do what they do: play great defense and score when you can, and win. So you can't really knock them for what's working. Um, they're sitting in a good spot right now. They're sitting in second place in the division. and have a chance to finish with a really solid record. So can't take away anything from what they're doing because some teams will kill for the the execution that they have on defense. Southern and Prairie View hooked up in a battle. Prairie View won this game 27-21. Panthers really solid effort for them on both sides of the ball. Kind of looked like it was going to get away from them for a little while, but Southern could never take advantage. Great second half defense for the Panthers. Held Southern to no first downs in the second half. Never let them cross Southern's own 36-yard line. Defensively, Prairie View just locked in on Southern, and their offense was able to score uh, to score score 10 points to win this game in the second half. Southern um, basically they led at halftime 21-17. Prairie View scored 10 points in the second half to get the dub. But Samar Savage caught a 60-yard pass from Trezon Conley to open up the scoring with 8:53 left in the first. Extra point good, 7-0. That capped a 90-play-yard drive that only took 6 plays. A 97-yard drive that only took 6 plays and 2:43 off the clock. They went boom, boom, boom down the field. Southern would get a 7-yard Kendrick Grimes touchdown run with 52 seconds left in the first. Extra point good, 7-7. Villa Gomez would kick a 23-yard field goal for the Panthers to make the score 10-7. That came with 7:46 left in the second. Kobe Dillon will get a 4-yard run for Southern. Extra point good. That came with 5:34 left in the second quarter, 14-10. Then Jaquan Bloomfield will run a 19-yard touchdown for Prairie View. Extra point good, 17-14. And then August Pete will catch an 8-yard pass from Harold Blood with 11 seconds left in the first half. Extra point good. That would make the score 21-17 Southern at the half. 3:04 left in the third. Jamarius Brooks will run a 9-yard touchdown run for Prairie View. Extra point good, 24-21. And then with 6:55 left in the game, Efren Jasso will kick a 33-yard field goal for the Panthers to make the score 27-20, 27-21. And that would be the final score. And like I said, Southern had a couple opportunities to move the ball late, but couldn't get anything going. And Prairie View pulled out the victory. 19 first downs for Prairie View, 18 for Southern, 163 yards on the ground for the Panthers, 48 carries, 3.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 105 for Southern, 34 carries, 3.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 184 yards for Prairie View through the air, 10 of 16, no 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 222 for Southern, 18 of 26, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 347 total offense for the Panthers, 64 plays, 5.4 yards per play, 1 fumble, and they lost it. 4 penalties for 36 yards. Southern 327 total offense, 60 plays, 5.4 yards per play, no fumbles, 7 penalties for 67 yards, 47-yard average punt for Prairie View, 46 for Southern. 33:07 time of possession for the Panthers, 26:53 for Southern. Neither team did much on third down. They were combined 5 for 24. Southern was 2 of 12. Prairie View was 3 of 12. Both teams again bad on fourth downs, combined 2 for 5. Southern 1 for 3. Prairie View 1 for 2. 3 or 4 in the red zone for Prairie View, 3 or 3 in the red zone for Southern. Both teams had 2 sacks. They both were 3 or 3 on extra points. Prairie View missed 2 field goals. They were 2 or 4. Southern was 0 for 1 on field goals. Trezon Connolly, 10 of 16 for 184 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Harold Blood, 14 of 19 for 123 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Noah Biden, 4 for 7 for 99 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Mar Antoine, 19 carries, 72 yards to lead the Panthers. Connolly, 19 for 54. Rhymes, 22 for 70 for Southern and 1 touchdown. Braylon Morgan, 1 for 25. Dylan, 4 for 11. Savage, 2 for 71 for the Panthers and 1 touchdown. Brooks, 1 for 35. Heron, 2 for 24. Murray, 2 for 24. Pete, 6 for 54 for Southern and 1 touchdown. Morris, 1 for 45. Allen, 2 for 44. Whitfield, 2 for 44. Johnson led the Panthers with 9 tackles. Also, Tariq Marlmore had 9 tackles. Ray had 2 tackles for loss to lead the Panthers. He also had a sack, and McHaney had a sack. No forced fumbles, no interceptions. Givens led Southern with 11 tackles. He also had 2.5 tackles for loss to lead the team, to be second on the team. Brown had three tackles for loss to lead the team. Campbell and Brown each had 1 sack apiece. Monroe had a forced fumble, recovered by Williams, and no interceptions for Southern. And like I said, this was Southern season in a nutshell. But Prairie View wins their second straight game, and they are sitting in a good spot heading into their final game, with everything on the line. So Prairie View made the move that they needed to make. They didn't play a great game, but they played a solid game, and they did what they needed to do. Didn't make a lot of mistakes. Played clean football for the most part. One fumble, but for the most part, I thought their defense stood up, especially in the second half, and locked down Southern. And the offense school was opportunistic and got the points they needed to keep them in the division race. So it's a two-team race in the West, to battle it out to figure out who's gonna play Florida A&M. And speaking of the Rattlers, they would get a pretty low key 28-0 victory over Lincoln. Um, they set some guys and just took care of business in this one. They scored all their points in the first 3 quarters. They went into the half of 21-0 before scoring their final score in the third quarter. Yaquez Yant had a 1 yard run for the Rattlers, extra point good. That came with 16 seconds left in the first quarter, 7-0. Wilson, 51 yard pick six for the Rattlers, 14-0. That was with 14:45 left in the second quarter. Will Holt, an 8 yard run for the Rattlers. That came with 10:52 left in the first half. Extra point good, 21-0. And then with 102 left in the third quarter, Yant had a 4 yard touchdown run, extra point good, 28-0 at that point, and that would be our final score of this game. Lincoln finished with 11 first downs, FAMU with 20, 32 yards on the ground for the Oaklanders, 23 carries, 1.4 yards per carry, no touchdowns, 141 on the ground for FAMU, 37 carries, 3.8 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, 139 through the air for Lincoln, 14 to 27, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. FAMU 95 yards through the air, 9 to 19, no touchdowns, no interceptions. 171 yards for Lincoln, 50 plays, 3.4 yards per play. They fumbled once, didn't lose it. They had 6 penalties for 68 yards, 236 for FAMU. Total offense, 56 plays, 4.2 yards per play, 3 fumbles. They lost one. They had 10 penalties for 103 yards. Kind of sloppy game for FAMU, as they kind of wrap up their season. 34-yard average per punt for Lincoln, 32 for FAMU. 26-30 time of possession for the Oaklanders, 33-30 for FAMU. 3 of 12 for Lincoln on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. 3 of 9 for FAMU on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. 0 for 2 in the red zone for Lincoln, 3 of 5 in the red zone for FAMU. 1 sack for Lincoln, 3 for FAMU. No extra points attempted for Lincoln, 4 for 4 for FAMU. Neither team attempted a field goal. The Oaklanders were led by TJ Goodwin, 14 of 27, 139 yards, no touchdown, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks. Julian Muratovic, 8 for 18 for 82 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked once. Ja'Cory Jordan, 1 for 13 yards and no interceptions, no touchdowns, 1 sack. Otis Whale, 13 carries, 31 yards for Lincoln. Um, Terrell Jennings, 8 for 53 for FAMU. Sawyer, 4 for 37. Dean, 6 for 27. Yant, 6 for 25 and 2 touchdowns. Will Holt, 4 for 22 and a touchdown. Phillips led Lincoln with 5 catches for 69 yards. Dixon, 2 for 25 for FAMU. Oxendine, 1 for 18. Pye, 1 for 13. Gassett, 1 for 12. Jennings, 1 for 12. Uh, Dudson led Lincoln with 11 tackles. Greenwood had 9. DeKite had two tackles for loss and a sack. Forced fumble was by Dandridge. Recovery was by Rushing. No interceptions. FAMU was led by Isaiah Major with 8 tackles. Edwards and Cheney each had a tackle for loss apiece. They both had a sack apiece. Interception went to Wilson, who returned his for a touchdown, and Ash had an interception as well. So, like I said, this not a lot to take from this game. wasn't pretty. But FAMU got the dub, and they head into their final game with the opportunity to finish their regular season on a strong note, heading into the SWAC championship. Um, Heading into the SWAC championship. So we have one final game in week 11. That game is today, which is Sunday, 2 p.m. kick, ESPN Plus broadcast, Alcorn versus Texas Southern in Houston. So make sure y'all check that game out. Um, should be a barn burner. Good opportunity for Alcorn to kind of keep the lead on Prairie View and make next week a winner take all type of thing. Um, Texas Southern got a chance to throw a monkey wrench in this and help Prairie View. So we'll see what happens. Week 12 schedule: Alabama A&M hosts Valley on Thursday night. That's a 6 p.m. kick. Very interesting game to see the state of the Bulldogs coming into a Thursday night game off of three straight losses and a surprising loss to Bethune-Cookman against a Valley team who hasn't played great offensively, but defensively the last 2 weeks they played a lot better. So could be an interesting ball game. And remember, Valley beat this Bulldog team last season on a Thursday night at the end of the season. So could be interesting. We'll talk about it more in our Week 12 preview on Wednesday. Saturday's games got the Soul Bowl, Alcorn and Jackson State. That's a 2 p.m. kick, ESPN Plus broadcast. Alabama State at Prairie View. That's a big game. 2 p.m. kick in Prairie View, ESPN Plus broadcast. So we will know what the West Division is like. Um, what the fate of the West Division would be after the 2 o'clock games. Pine Bluff is at Texas Southern. That's also a 2 o'clock game. HBCU Gold broadcast. The Florida Classic 2:30 p.m. kick Eastern Time, 1:30 Central. It says ESPN Network, so we'll know what that is coming up during the week. Bethune-Cookman on a 2 game winning streak, taking on the Rattlers, looking to wrap up an undefeated SWAC season and head into the SWAC championship with all their momentum. Like I said, that's a great game in the Florida Classic, so make sure y'all catch that game. Southern and Grambling are both in their traditional bye week before the Bayou Classic, so pretty solid week next week. Got a lot on the line in a couple games. The East and West would be the West would be decided pretty much by Saturday evening, depending on what happens in today's game. Um, won't wrap up anything, but there's a lot there's a good chance for some real understanding of the standings after today for sure. Looking at the standings for the season at this point, FAMU continues to roll. They're 7-0 in conference, 9-1 overall. They're on an 8 game winning streak. Jackson State is 5-2, 7-3 overall with a 3 game win streak. Bama State 5-2, 6-3 overall with a 5 game winning streak. A&M 2-5 in conference, 4-6 overall. They've lost 3 in a row. Uh, Bethune-Cookman 2-5, 3-7 overall. They've won 2 in a row. Valley 1-6, 1-9 overall. They've lost 4 in a row. Alcorn 5-1, 6-3 overall. They won 5 in a row. Prairie View 5-2, 5-5 overall. They've won 2 in a row. Southern 4-3, 5-5 overall. They've lost 2 in a row. Grambling 4-3, 5-5 overall. They've won one. Texas Southern 1-5, 2-7 overall. They've lost 3 in a row. And Bethune and Pine Bluff is the only winless team in conference play. They're 0-7, 1-9 overall, and they've lost 7 games in a row. So as you can see, the action today goes a long way in clearing up the West Division. An Alcorn win puts them at 6-1 heading into the final game of the season next week. A win there, they win the West. A loss there, depending on what Prairie View does, then the Panthers will go. So right now, let's we looking at Alcorn winning. If Alcorn wins out, they win the division. If they finish tied with Prairie View, then the Panthers win the division. Prairie View, like I said, they're 5-2. They have 1 game left. They lose that game, Alcorn wins the division no matter what happens in their game. If they win and Alcorn loses, then they win the tiebreaker. So that's still a lot on the line, man. That's still a lot on the line for next week. My prediction for the West coming down to the last week of the season in the Bayou Classic was wrong, but it come down to the last full week for everybody. So I was wrong, but I was not super wrong, but I was wrong. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But that's our standings and that's our show. And like I said, we'll be back with our recap of this game of Sunday's game tomorrow. Our HBCU top 10 show will be on Tuesday. Wednesday, week 12 previews. Thursday, SWAC Smoke, live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Sunday is our week 12 recap. Y'all make sure y'all like the video, subscribe, and hit that super thanks if you like. Join the channel as a member, or hit the Cash App to support the show, $ Swag Talk, and check out all the socials. And we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.